Have you ever woken up and just wondered, what on earth was my brain doing for the last 8 hours? I mean, you were completely out of it, traveling through who knows what kind of dreams, but your brain? Oh, it was busy. It was buzzing with activity, writing this incredible, really complex story. The only problem is, it's a story written in a language we can't naturally understand, the language of electricity. So today, we're going to decode that language. We are diving deep into how scientists can actually read a sleeping brain, and it all comes down to one amazing tool and a system of unbelievable precision.
Right, so this is the big question, isn't it? How in the world do we translate the silent electrical chatter of literally billions of neurons into a clear map of our nightly journey? And honestly sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's a real procedure that happens in sleep labs every single night. The answer involves a technique that's been around for almost 100 years, but the way it's used in sleep science, well, that's what truly unlocks the secrets of the night. So let's get into it.
Okay, first things first. Before we can even think about reading the story of sleep, we have to understand the alphabet it's written in. You know, the grammar, the language itself. We're not reading thoughts, we're reading electrical patterns. And the tool we use for that is the electroencephalogram, or as you've probably heard it called, the EEG. You know, at its heart, the idea behind an EEG is actually pretty simple. It's basically a way of listening to the brain's electrical hum from the outside. We use these small metal discs, they're called electrodes, and we place them on the scalp. Think of these electrodes like tiny, super sensitive microphones, just picking up the faint electrical rhythms that are generated by millions and millions of neurons firing together right under the skull. This is it. This is the raw data, the language of the brain that we need to translate.
Now, it is so important to be really clear about what an EEG does and what it absolutely does not do. Our source material is emphatic about this. In a sleep lab, an EEG has a very specific job. It is a voltmeter, not a mind reader. It can't tell you if you're dreaming about showing up to work with no pants on or if you're happy or sad. Nope. Its only job is to measure tiny voltage changes to identify patterns. And these patterns, they're the signatures of being awake, of being in light sleep, deep sleep, or REM sleep. It's all about pattern recognition.
Okay, this next part is absolutely crucial. It's the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. An EEG doesn't just measure the electricity at a single spot on your head. That would actually be pretty meaningless, because your whole head has a general electrical field. Instead, what it measures is the difference in electrical energy between two specific points. Think of it like this. If you want to know how steep a hill is, you can't just stand in one spot. You need to look at 2 points, a higher one and a lower one, to see the slope. EEG works the exact same way.
And there's a technical name for this, of course. It's called a derivation. Every single squiggly line you see on an EEG printout from a sleep study is a derivation. It's always one electrode, let's call it the active one, being compared to another reference electrode. If the electrical vibe is the same at both spots, the line stays flat. But if the active spot is more electrically negative or positive than the reference spot, boom, a wave appears on the screen. And that wave, that simple difference, is the fundamental building block for the entire story of your night's sleep.
So, if we're measuring the difference between 2 points, well, then the location of those points becomes incredibly important, right? You can't just slap these electrodes on wherever you feel like it. This isn't guesswork at all. It's a science of anatomical mapping. It's a system designed to make sure every sleep study is accurate and can be compared to any other study, no matter who or where you are in the world.
This quote from our source material just nails it. It's a completely unforgiving process. There is no such thing as close enough. The whole setup is like a chain of dominoes. If your starting points, your fundamental landmarks are off by even a tiny bit, then every single electrode placement that follows will be wrong. A small error at the beginning becomes a huge error in the final data, and that could lead to a totally wrong diagnosis.
So what are these super important starting points? Well, there are 4 specific spots on your skull that don't move. You can probably find them on yourself right now. First is the nasion. That's the little dip at the bridge of your nose. Second, the inion, that bony bump at the very back of your skull. And finally, the 2 preauricular points, those little indentations right in front of your ears. These 4 points are the anchors for the entire map because they are the same on everyone, no matter your head size or shape.
And those landmarks are the anchors for a brilliant system called the International 10-20 system. Now, the genius of this system is that it doesn't use fixed measurements like inches or centimeters. It uses percentages. A tech measures the distance from the nasion at the front to the inion at the back and calls that 100%. Then all the key electrode spots are marked at 10% and 20% intervals along that line. This proportional method means the system works perfectly for every single unique head, making sure that an electrode called C3 is in the exact same relative brain region on me, on you, on everybody. It's what makes EEG a true standardized science.
And this all comes together in a really methodical, careful process. A sleep tech will first find those 4 landmarks. Then, they take a tape measure and run it from the nasion right over the top of the head down to the inion. They'll mark points at 10%, 30%, 50%, and so on. That 50% point is the critical center spot called CZ. But they don't just trust that one measurement. To double-check, they do a second one, from the left ear point to the right ear point. The halfway mark of that measurement has to land on the exact same CZ spot. If it doesn't, they start over. No guessing, it's a system of checks and balances to guarantee precision.
All right, the electrodes are on, placed with surgical precision. Now what? Well, now we get to the payoff. All that careful setup means we can finally listen in, and what we hear is this symphony of different brain waves. The next step is to translate those waves into something meaningful, to turn that electrical story into the actual stages of sleep.
This table here, it is basically the Rosetta Stone for reading a sleep EEG. It breaks down all that brain activity into 4 main speed limits, or frequency bands. You've got beta waves, those are the fastest, meaning your brain is awake and alert. Then alpha waves, a little slower, that's you being awake but relaxed with your eyes closed. Slower still are theta waves, which pop up as you drift into light sleep. And finally, you have delta waves, the slowest, biggest, most powerful waves, and they are the unmistakable sign of deep, restorative sleep. A good technician learns to see these frequencies in a single glance. But wait, it's not quite that simple. While those general frequencies tell us a lot, the brain doesn't just hum along at one speed. During certain stages of sleep, it generates these very specific, totally unmistakable waveforms. They act like big, bright, flashing neon signs, telling a sleep score exactly where they are in the sleep cycle. These are the real crown jewels of sleep staging.
The first of these is the sleep spindle. It's this brief, beautiful little burst of brain activity that looks like a spindle of thread on the screen. It starts small, gets wider in the middle, and then tapers off. And our source material could not be clearer about this. The moment you see a sleep spindle, you are officially in stage N2 sleep. It is a non-negotiable rule, and it's the most reliable marker for the stage of sleep we spend most of our night in.
The other major signpost for stage N2 is the K complex. And this one is dramatic. While the rest of the EEG might be humming along, a K complex just erupts from the baseline, a huge, sharp downward spike, followed by a slower upward swing. It's thought to be the brain's way of saying, "Shh, nothing to see here," to keep you asleep. And just like the spindle, the rule is simple. If you see a K complex, you score that moment as stage N2 sleep. These 2 waveforms are the definitive guides through the night.
So now we have all the pieces of the puzzle. We have a precise map of the head, we understand the language of frequencies, and we can spot those special landmark events. Let's put it all together and actually walk through how a technician reads the story of a night, chapter by chapter, from the moment you fall asleep to the moment you wake up. So before sleep even begins, there's this state of quiet wakefulness. Your body is still, your mind is calm, but your brain is producing this really clear, very consistent signal. It's the baseline, the starting point for the whole journey. And it's this beautiful rhythmic pattern that is just impossible to miss once you know what to look for.
And that pattern is called the alpha rhythm. As our sources highlight, this is the classic signature of being awake with your eyes closed. It's strongest in the back of your head, the occipital region, which is where your visual cortex lives. When you close your eyes, your visual system kind of goes into this idling mode, and it pumps out this smooth rhythm. The moment you open your eyes, poof, the alpha is gone. It's basically the brain's screensaver mode.
So after you drift through that very light transitional first stage of sleep, the brain needs to send a clear signal that, okay, we've moved into real, stable sleep now. And this isn't some gradual fade out, it's like a switch gets flipped. The brain starts generating a very specific waveform that's like the official announcement that stage N2 has begun.
And that signature is, you guessed it, the sleep spindle. This is the exact moment a sleep technologist is waiting to see. As soon as that little half-second burst of activity appears, that's it. The scoring changes. It is the definitive, unambiguous marker that the brain has left the shallows and has entered what's going to be the longest chapter of the night's story, stage N2 sleep.
But the journey isn't over. It goes even deeper. After spending some time in stage N2, the brain can descend into its most restorative phase. And when this happens, the brain's electrical activity just completely transforms. All those faster rhythms give way to this powerful, synchronized, and incredibly slow rhythm that just takes over the entire EEG. It literally looks like a slow, rolling ocean swell on the screen.
And these are the mighty delta waves. And this isn't just a subjective call, it's a hard and fast rule. A technician looks at the screen in 30-second chunks. If those big, slow delta waves take up 20% or more of that 30-second window, it gets scored as stage N3, or deep sleep. This is where the magic happens. Physical restoration, memory consolidation, it's the brain in its most powerful state of rest, all defined by a simple percentage.
So there you have it, from precise measurements on the scalp to a deep understanding of frequencies and special waveforms. That's how scientists translate the brain's silent electrical story into a clear narrative of sleep. It's a language of rhythms and patterns, and it really makes you wonder, right? This language is being spoken inside our own heads every single night, holding clues to our health, our memory, our entire well-being. What new discoveries about ourselves could we unlock if we all became just a little more fluent in reading it?